Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. This week I did want to share some Thanksgiving crock-pot recipes with you. I can probably bet that your oven and your stovetop are going to be super busy already on Thanksgiving, so being able to use your crock-pot to knock out a couple extra recipes is very helpful. But before we get started, I did want to mention that I do have a bit of a chest cold, so I do apologize if my voice or my breathing sounds a little weird. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started and I will show you these recipes. First up, we're going to be making this crock-pot corn on the cob, and this is probably the easiest recipe out of this entire video. Since there was only 2 of us, I just made a small amount, but you can always double, triple, quadruple this recipe, whatever you need to do. I'm using a 2-quart crock pot and adding in this 6-pack of corn. This is actually only 3 full pieces of corn, but they cut them in half to make them smaller, which is honestly nice if you're going to be having a family dinner because everybody gets just enough. Into the crock pot, I also added 1 cup of water and then plenty of salt and pepper. You can always adjust that salt and pepper later, or just set the salt and pepper out when you are serving this, and everyone can just add their own to it as well. I did also add about a ½ teaspoon of garlic powder in there, move them around just a little bit to try to cover them with all the seasonings and just kind of get them down in the water as much as possible. And then I took 3 tablespoons of butter. I just kind of cut those into smaller pieces and laid that butter all over top of the corn. Then you'll just add your lid on and let this go on a high heat for right around 3 hours. And you just want to take a fork and make sure that the fork can kind of gently poke into the corn, then you know it is completely done. At this point, you can turn your crock pot off or leave it on a warm setting just to keep it warm for your dinner. But that's all you have to do for this. It's so easy. Everyone can just grab their corn right out of the crock pot, and you don't have to put too much effort into this recipe at all. Next, we're going to be making a crock pot turkey. I wanted to make a turkey breast for this recipe. That's what I normally do here on Thanksgiving, but my store didn't have them in yet when I was filming this back in September. So I'm just going to be using a turkey tenderloin, but I'm doing the exact same recipe and method as I would if it was a turkey breast. To begin, we're going to be making a butter mixture / rub to go on the outside of the turkey while it cooks. Since I am just using the tenderloin, I am halving this recipe. So into this bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, 1 teaspoon of rosemary, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of parsley, 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. Once all that is in my bowl, I'm just going to get that mixed together. I don't think I mentioned this, but you do want to make sure that your butter is nice and soft. Room temperature is just fine. You don't want it to be too liquidy. I'm going to get that mixed really well together, and then we will add this on top of our turkey tenderloin in just a minute. Into the bottom of a nice large crock pot, I am adding 1 onion that I sliced up into little rings. This is going to be the bed for the turkey. Here is my turkey tenderloin. This one is from Walmart. It does come in a 2-pack. I have both tenderloins in here. I'm just cooking them together. After I set the tenderloin down in there, I am going to take a paper towel and just kind of pat it dry. That way my butter and seasoning mixture sticks to the top of it. If you don't like using your hand, you can use a spoon. However, using your fingers to do this is 10 times easier because you really want to make sure you pack it on there and get it to stick to the turkey as much as possible without it all falling off and going down into the onions. And then right over top of the onions, that way it goes underneath of the turkey, I am adding a 1/4 cup of chicken broth. Now I'm just adding the lid, turning this onto a low heat, and we're going to let this go for a couple of hours. I want to say these tenderloins cooked for about 3 to 4 hours. I do not remember the exact weight on them, but down below in the description box, I will try to find a website that has the amount of time you need to cook a turkey according to the weight and when you need to set it out and all that stuff. I will try to find something like that below for you. Once it's done, you will just need to take out a baking sheet, and I did spray that down with a little bit of nonstick spray. And now I'm just going to pull that turkey tenderloin out of there. Like I said, this is 2 pieces, so it kind of fell apart into its individual pieces. So I just kind of added it back together. And then this is going into the oven to broil for about 5 minutes. It's just going to give that top a little bit extra done. I definitely recommend doing this step. It makes a huge difference. But as you can see in the crock pot, you have all this broth in here, so you can use that for any recipe you need on Thanksgiving that requires broth. Here is my turkey tenderloin out of the oven. It is perfectly cooked at this time. I will have more details down in the description box like I said for you. I just like to slice this up so it's easy to grab. I will take a little bit of that broth because usually I don't need it for any other recipes, but it's there if you decide to use it in something else. I do like to pour it over the top just to add a little bit extra moisture and flavor into that turkey. This is what it looks like when it is all done. This turkey is so flavorful. Like I said, I've made this turkey breast with this seasoning mixture in my crock pot the last 2 Thanksgivings, and it has turned out perfect each time. So I will type out the recipe below for you, but definitely try this recipe if you haven't. It is so unbelievably good. Now we're going to be making some crock pot mashed potatoes, and I do want to tell you that this chicken that I made with the mashed potatoes, I just shared it last week, so I will go ahead and link that recipe below for you. It's a really wonderful recipe as well. To get started, I have right around 2 pounds of russet potatoes. I'm just going to peel those and then cube them up into about medium-sized pieces, and then add them into a 2-quart slow cooker with 1 cup of water poured over the top. You'll just turn this on high and let this go for about 3-ish hours until your potatoes are fork tender. Once they are all done, the very first thing that I do is add in butter, and I will go ahead and mash that butter with the potatoes until they are nice and smooth. When I make my mashed potatoes, I don't really measure anything. It is all to taste. But I will try to give you as accurate of measurements as I possibly can. So I believe I added in about half a stick of butter. Normally I keep unsalted butter on hand, but you can use salted butter, that's fine. Once those are all mashed, I will add in some milk. Today I'm using half and half, and I probably added in a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of that. And then I'm also adding in about a 1/2 cup of sour cream, a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of parsley, and about a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I gave this a really good mix together, and then I did taste it and adjust the seasonings to my liking. I think everybody likes their mashed potatoes a little bit different, especially when it comes to the seasonings that go in your mashed potatoes. So make sure that you do taste them and adjust your seasonings as needed. Here's what they will look like when they are all done. After they get done cooking in the crock pot and you've added in everything you want to add into them, you can just leave them on a warm setting and they should be good to go while everybody is eating dinner. What would Thanksgiving be without a pumpkin recipe? So we're gonna throw in a pumpkin dessert. Into this large bowl, you will need to add in 1 package of cake mix. You can use spice cake mix, yellow cake mix, or white cake mix. Next, I'm adding in 1 package of vanilla instant pudding, a 15-ounce can of pumpkin, 1.5 cups of half and half, and 1.5 sticks of melted butter. You'll just want to get that mixed together really well, and then we're going to add it into our crock pot. This is the most important part of this recipe. You want to make sure you spray down your crock pot very, very, very well before adding this mixture in. You could just dump everything in the crock pot and then mix it all together in there. However, I like to mix it in a bowl and then pour it in. That way the nonstick spray doesn't get disturbed too much. Once that's all in the crock pot, I am just going to try to even that out the best that I can. Over the top, you'll just want to add about a half cup of brown sugar. Just try to sprinkle it evenly over the top, and then you can add the lid on and let this go on a low heat for right around 3 hours. After the 3-hour mark, you'll want to turn your crock pot off. During this time, the cake will separate from the edges, and you will see that it does not stick at all as long as you spray it down really, really well. If you're driving to go to someone's house and you're trying to find a recipe to take, this is perfect because you can go ahead and cook it and then it'll separate from the edges on your drive there. It only takes about 30 or 40 minutes to do that. And the reason that I like to do this is because at the 3-hour mark, the center is about 80% done. But if you just let this sit with the heat off, it stops the outsides from overcooking, but yet still lets that center part cook a little bit more, so it is all the way done. Over the top, we like to add some vanilla ice cream to finish it off, but this dessert is so easy and so delicious and perfect for Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed and hopefully it gave you some good ideas for this upcoming holiday. Don't forget to leave me a flower down below in the comments if you made it all the way to the end, and I will see you guys back here next time. Bye!